Some time ago I suggested in one of these pieces that death was at heart a community experience, that human beings were not intended to face loss and bereavement alone. And in that sense the whole nation, indeed the whole world, is grieving. And I still believe that that is the case, and I hope that that saves this reflection from being too self-focused. But forgive me please if in the end you conclude that it doesn't. But I honestly believe that we are traumatised as a people, and that we are all indeed suffering the effects of bereavement to a lesser or a greater extent. Of course, for some the grief is more personal and much closer to home, but none of us, I think, are untouched by the events of the last few months. Earlier today I was speaking to someone on the phone who lives in a community which has lost over 300 people from their town and their surrounding neighbourhood. Now that doesn't happen without impacting on our souls at the very deepest level and asking challenging questions about the things that hold community together. So how are we grieving? How are we grieving as a community? How are we grieving as a nation? How are we trying to deal with our collective sense of loss and support one another in personal loss? Can I just share with you one or two observations along the way? In these times of restricted movement and even more restrictive assembly, some have turned to technology to help the process of remembering and grieving. The BBC now have a tributes page on their website. There are photos and a memorial phrase that can be added, and those who visit the page see the tributes in a random order. Every time you visit the page, different faces, different stories. This feels like a worthy attempt for the channel to help us to remember and to help us know that they have remembered, that the statistics that they are required to announce each day are so much more than that. They're about families, they're about faces, they're about names, they're about memories, they're about histories, they're about real people. A more formal online book of remembrance has been opened by St Paul's Cathedral. The Remember Me project offers the opportunity for family members to upload a tribute, including a photo, to remember their loved one taken by the COVID-19 virus. In introducing and supporting Remember Me, Prince Charles has said, "This virtual project of remembrance is here to help you remember, not just to record our loss and our sorrow, but also to be thankful for everything good that those we have loved have brought into our lives." And to spend a few minutes in the book is both inspiring and a heartbreaking experience. With the doors of our churches forced to be locked and so many of our usual opportunities to express community grief closed to us, St Paul's have, I think, done a good and important thing to help the nation grieve. But there is one other community bereavement project up and running which I just want to draw your attention to in case you've missed it. I want to tell you about it because this one you may encounter without even going and looking for it. Under the hashtag Love for the Lost, Hannah Gompertz has begun a Facebook-based project which is growing and growing and growing. Following the death of her gran, Hannah wanted to find a way to help people to find support in grief from those around them. She was aware that with self-isolation and restricted movement of so many, it was perfectly possible for people to be grieving the loss of a loved one without even their close neighbours knowing the truth. So she launched the idea of placing a sign in the window of the home where they could be seen by people as they walked past. And so it is that alongside the myriad rainbows that brighten our neighbourhoods these days, you are now starting to find yellow hearts in the windows. A home with a yellow heart in the window is a home that has been touched directly by the loss of someone to COVID-19. It may be that you've even already seen a few around your streets and not known the symbolism. But now you do. So now if you see them, now you can pause, now you can remember, maybe even offer a prayer to for those grieving inside. You will see yellow hearts on Facebook too. It's the same project, it's the same scheme, it's the same idea. Finding ways to help us unite in our grief together. It is such a simple act, placing a yellow heart in your house window. And yet it is one way in which we can begin to grieve together as a community, as a nation, and as a world. One way in which we can hold those who have lost loved ones and ease their sense of loneliness and isolation in these unusual, extraordinary, and so often heartbreaking times.